Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. I'm really pumped you're here today because, well, we're diving into something that literally shapes our entire lives, but we hardly ever talk about it the right way. We're talking about the psychology of money. We spend so much time obsessing over the mechanics, the spreadsheets, the hot stock picks, chasing interest rates. But what if I told you the real secret to financial success is actually an inside job? It's an inner game. Think about this for a second. Why do two people with the exact same income, the exact same education, and frankly, the exact same opportunities end up with dramatically different bank accounts a decade later? It's wild, right? It's a mystery that plays out in every single city, at every company, every day. But the answer, it doesn't actually lie in a better spreadsheet or some lucky break. It's entirely in our internal psychology. It's all about what's going on under the hood. Let's get right into part one, the inner game of wealth. To really unpack this, we've got to shift our focus completely away from the rigid, boring mechanics of money and shine a light on the invisible mindset behind it all. We call this foundation wealth consciousness. Basically, it's the total sum of your beliefs, your assumptions, your emotions, and those habitual thought patterns you have around money. Think of it like a giant tree. If you want to change the fruits, like your visible, real-world financial results, you have to change the roots first. Your invisible, underground programming creates your visible, above-ground reality. If your roots are wired for scarcity, well, all the financial knowledge in the world isn't going to force that tree to grow wealthy fruits.
Which brings us to part two, your hidden money blueprint.
You see, we all have this subconscious financial program running in the background. It's exactly like a thermostat. Say your financial thermostat was set to, 70 degrees during your childhood. If you suddenly win the lottery and your environment heats up to 100 degrees, your subconscious will actually freak out and work to cool things back down to your comfort zone. You'll literally find ways to lose or blow the money just to get back to 70. This leads to a huge lesson from T. Harv Eker. Your wealth can only grow to the extent that you do. He uses this awesome metaphor of a balloon. If you try to force massive amounts of air, which represents money, into a tiny balloon that just doesn't have the capacity for it, what happens? Pop, it bursts. The truth is, most people simply don't have the internal capacity to hold on to large amounts of wealth. So, how does this blueprint actually play out in the real world? Well, there's a logical, step-by-step formula for this. Aker calls it the TFAR process. It goes like this. First, your subconscious thoughts lead to your feelings. Your feelings then drive your actions, and ultimately, your actions produce your results. Boom. If you're unhappy with the results you're seeing in your bank account, you can't just try to force new actions. That never works long-term. You have to trace it all the way back to step one, the root thoughts and beliefs that were programmed into your mind. So, where is your mind currently set? Let's walk through the 7 phases of wealth consciousness, mapped out by expert Philip No. We start down at poverty, where every decision is driven entirely by fear. Then we move up through survival, stability, and security. This is where you're actively protecting what you've got. Keep going and we hit comfort, abundance, where money is seen as a renewable resource, and finally, contribution, where your wealth actually becomes a tool for broader impact. Take a second and be totally honest with yourself right now. Which of these phases really describes your dominant mindset today? Okay, let's shift gears to part 3, biases sabotaging your wealth. Now that we've laid down the psychological theory, let's look at the hard behavioral economics. Because listen, even if you're actively working on your mindset, you still have invisible enemies trying to sabotage your wealth every single day. Take the late Daniel Kahneman, a literal Nobel laureate in behavioral economics. When someone asked him if studying investor bias for his entire life made him a perfect investor, his response was amazing. He said, "I still make mistakes. I just know I'm making them." That is huge. It proves that even the absolute most brilliant minds on the planet battle these deeply entrenched caveman-era cognitive biases. Our brains are hardwired for survival in the savannah, not trading on the stock market. According to Kiplinger, there are 7 key sabotaging biases, things like loss aversion, anchoring, and inertia, that secretly undermine our best efforts to build lifelong security. We're going to zoom in on a few of these right now because awareness, that is your very first line of defense. If you don't even know these quirks exist, you are basically guaranteed to fall victim to them. Let's kick it off with overconfidence. Basically, the belief that you can outsmart the market. The absolutely crucial number here is 6.5%. A massive study found that the most overconfident active traders, the ones constantly buying and selling because they're convinced they know best, they actually lag the market by a staggering 6.5 percentage points every single year. Put that into perspective. Compound that penalty over a couple of decades, and you are essentially setting your retirement portfolio on fire. Seriously. To ground this psychology in some hard financial reality, let's look at what happens when you let overconfidence or even fear convince you to time the market. If you just stay fully invested over a 20-year period, you capture 100% of your potential gains. Simple enough. But if you try to time things and end up missing just the 10 best trading days in that entire 2-decade span, your gains are literally chopped in half. Miss the 30 best days, and you're barely breaking even. The big takeaway here? Get in, stay in, and check your ego at the door. Next up, we have home country bias. We just love what feels familiar, right? U.S. investors actually hold a whopping 81% of their equity in U.S. stocks and only 19% internationally. But here's the catch. The U.S. represents less than half of the world's total market value. Financial experts usually recommend closer to a 70-30 split. So by letting familiarity dictate your portfolio, you're completely ignoring global growth and leaving some serious money on the table. And that brings us to two massive, completely contrasting emotional pitfalls. On one hand, we've got loss aversion. The psychological pain of losing money is actually twice as powerful as the joy of gaining it. So what do? We hold on to dead-end investments way too long just to avoid admitting defeat. On the other hand, we have herd mentality, better known as FOMO. This is our old caveman instinct to stick with the tribe. It's exactly what causes us to buy a hot asset like a trendy new cryptocurrency right at its absolute peak, just because our neighbors won't stop talking about it at a barbecue. Both of these behaviors will absolutely destroy your wealth. Let's wrap things up with part 4, rewiring your millionaire mind. Okay, so how do we actually fix all of this? It's time to blend those behavioral economics with the inner psychology of money, and it starts with a really stark difference in how you view the game itself. The rich mentality plays the money game on offense. They are playing to win, aiming for massive wealth and true abundance. The poor mentality, though, they play the money game on defense. They're simply trying not to lose, aiming just to pay the bills and maybe be quote-unquote comfortable. But remember the power of intention. If your only goal is to pay the bills, I promise you, your brain will ensure you get exactly enough to pay the bills and not a single penny more. Next, take a hard look at where you direct your focus. A wealthy mind actually expects to succeed. It's constantly scanning the horizon for opportunities, for potential growth, and for rewards. Scarcity thinking is the exact opposite. It constantly scans for risks, problems, and worst-case scenarios. And here is the kicker. Whatever you focus on expands. If you're constantly looking for reasons an investment will fail, trust me, you will find them, and you'll never take the actions necessary to actually grow your wealth. And that brings us to the ultimate dividing line, the belief that I create my life versus life happens to me. Listen, you simply cannot be a wealthy victim. It doesn't work. Victims blame the economy, they justify their empty bank accounts, and they complain constantly. And as T. Harv Eker so bluntly puts it, when you complain, you become a living, breathing crap magnet. You have to stop playing the victim, grab the steering wheel, and take 100% responsibility for your own financial reality. So, what are the actual practical steps to hack these biases? First, harness your natural human laziness. Automate your good habits. Set up auto deposits straight into your investment accounts so you don't even have to think about it. Second, rebalance your portfolio annually. This is huge because it literally forces you to sell high and buy low, which completely overrides your emotions. Third, always, and I mean always, seek independent, objective second opinions before making big financial moves. It counters your own blind spots. And finally, use verbal declarations. Say your goals out loud. It sounds cheesy, but it actually shifts your internal focus from scarcity to abundance. I want to leave you with this final thought today. Will you play the money game to win, or are you just playing not to lose? The mechanics of money, the spreadsheets, and the charts, they're out there for anyone to learn. But the inner game, your blueprint, your consciousness, your biases, mastering that is entirely up to you. Take ownership of your internal thermostat today and just watch how your external world begins to change. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to dive into our next topic with you. See you then.